I don't know what the future holds for Hollywood, but there was a time when it knew how to make movies. Today's list is all about 1980s thrillers, 11 great films, all R or X rated. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. Before Basic Instinct, there was Body Heat, and it's no surprise this movie turned Kathleen Turner into a major sex symbol almost overnight. The story follows the affair between William Hurt's small-time lawyer and Turner's rich, bored wife. The two start a relationship and soon decide to get rid of her husband, played by Richard Crenna, and walk away with everything. It sounds simple. It isn't. Plot-wise, the film sticks closely to classic film noir, the drifter, the femme fatale, the wealthy husband. The difference is that by 1981 the rules had changed. The movie could show what older noirs could only hint at, and it does so very directly. Still, what really carries Body Heat are the performances. Hurt and Turner play everything straight, without irony, which makes the manipulation and tension feel real. The drama is heightened, but it never feels fake, and that's why the film still works. There are going to be a couple of Brian De Palma films on this list. One of them is Dressed to Kill, his 1980 movie, and a very direct, modernized take on Hitchcock. The influence of Psycho is obvious, but this time the sexual element is much more explicit. Angie Dickinson plays a middle-aged housewife whose sexual frustration pushes her into dangerous situations. The story then turns into a strange murder mystery, with Michael Caine as her psychiatrist and Nancy Allen as a call girl. At the same time, the movie is surprisingly direct about sexuality in mature women. Dickinson was 49 at the time, and it treats Allen's sex worker character in a fairly straightforward, non-judgmental way. Dressed to Kill can feel sleazy and excessive, but that comes with the territory. What elevates it is De Palma's direction, especially his use of wide angles and split screen, which gives the film a much stronger visual identity. Jagged Edge opens with a man, played by Jeff Bridges, arrested for the murder of his wealthy wife. The evidence points straight at him. He hires a high-profile defense lawyer, played by Glenn Close, and the two soon start an affair. At the same time, the trial gets underway, and testimony begins to suggest there's more to him than she first believes. As the case moves forward, Close's character starts receiving anonymous notes, hinting that her client might be innocent. The problem is, no one knows who's sending them or what their motive is. The film keeps you guessing about who this man really is, all the way to the end. What Jagged Edge does especially well is control information. You're only given pieces from both sides, just enough to keep doubt alive. By the time the credits roll, the film has done its job. You're still replaying the story in your head, questioning everything you thought you knew. Angel Heart is part neo-noir and part supernatural thriller. Directed by Alan Parker, it's a film that didn't get much attention on release and has mostly stayed under the radar since. Mickey Rourke leads the film, with strong supporting performances from Lisa Bonet and Robert De Niro. The performances are a big part of why the movie still holds up. Visually, this is one of Parker's strongest films. The lighting leans heavily into shadow, and the production design and locations do a lot of the storytelling. The atmosphere is thick, controlled, and very deliberate. American Gigolo was written and directed by Paul Schrader, best known for writing Taxi Driver. The tone is set immediately, Richard Gere driving his Mercedes along the Los Angeles coast to Blondie's Call Me. Gere plays Julian Kay, a high-end male escort who moves through Los Angeles society with ease. He lives well, dresses well, and fits perfectly into a world built on image, status, and appearances. That life starts to fall apart after a last-minute job he takes as a favor. When a woman connected to it is later found dead, Julian becomes the main suspect. A key witness refuses to give him an alibi, and suddenly all those connections he depended on mean very little. The only possible way out comes through Michelle, a client and the unhappy wife of a politician. The Postman always rings twice, stars Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange, which already tells you a lot. This is the 1981 remake of the classic story, and Nicholson plays Frank, a drifter who stops at a small diner in rural California and ends up staying to work there. The diner is run by Cora, played by Lange and her much older husband. It doesn't take long for Frank and Cora to start an affair. Soon enough, they're talking about killing her husband so they can be together and keep the place for themselves. The film doesn't romanticize any of this. It treats desire as reckless and destructive, something that pushes people into terrible decisions. Frank and Cora know exactly how wrong their plan is, and they do it anyway. And if you want to go doubly classic, the 1946 version still works perfectly well. Two murders with the same setup put New York police on edge. In both cases, the victim is found naked on a bed, shot in the head, with the song Sea of Love playing on a loop. That's the case at the center of the film. Sea of Love marked Al Pacino's return after a 4-year break following Revolution. Pacino plays a troubled, alcoholic detective chasing what looks like a serial killer. There's also a relationship with Ellen Barkin's character. This isn't a romantic story, but the chemistry matters, and it works. For most of its runtime, the film stays unpredictable and engaging, and the soundtrack plays a big role in setting the tone. Blue Velvet might be Lynch's most accessible film, but it's also one of his most unpleasant, and that's very much the point. Kyle MacLachlan plays Jeffrey Beaumont, a college student who returns to his hometown after his father suffers a stroke. While there, he finds a severed human ear in a field and brings it to the police. Instead of letting it go, Jeffrey becomes obsessed with the mystery. That curiosity pulls him into a dangerous situation involving Dorothy Valens and her violent captor, Dennis Hopper's Frank Booth. He's the film's most shocking element, grotesque, violent, and strangely funny at the same time. Directed by Ken Russell, Crimes of Passion is a 1984 film that leans hard into provocation. It was his second and last Hollywood production, and it doesn't play nice. Kathleen Turner plays Joanna Crane, a quiet fashion designer during the day. At night, she becomes China Blue, a prostitute who treats the job like a calling. That double life draws in two men. John Laughlin plays Bobby, a security specialist hired to follow her, and watching her only highlights how unhappy he is at home. Then there's a street preacher named Peter, played by Anthony Perkins, whose obsession turns violent. This is one of those films where the usual label doesn't really fit. It's so confrontational and so deliberately excessive that it feels designed to shock more than anything else. You'll probably either love it or hate it, but it's not the kind of movie you sit through with no reaction. It's sleazy, it's had problems with censors over the years, and it's also got a nasty, jet black sense of humor. Black Widow is an often overlooked thriller. It's about two women who become fascinated with each other, and the story turns into an escalating game of wits. Teresa Russell plays Catherine, a psychopath who moves through countless identities. She marries wealthy men, then kills them, confident their deaths will be blamed on Ondine's curse, a condition where otherwise healthy men stop breathing in their sleep. Deborah Winger plays Alexandra Barnes, a Justice Department agent bored with desk work and desperate for something real. She notices the pattern, realizes the victims' wives are the same woman, and tries to stop Catherine before she kills again. But Alexandra is unaware that the Black Widow is actually closing in on her. And here's the other Brian De Palma film I promised. Body Double is the one that really won't convince anyone who thinks he rips off Hitchcock. The story clearly echoes Rear Window and Vertigo. The film follows Jake Scully, a struggling actor who ends up house-sitting for a friend. From there, he becomes fixated on a woman he watches through a telescope. Still, there's more going on here than simple homage. Like a lot of De Palma's work, it's visually ambitious and genuinely suspenseful. It also features a strong score by Pino Donaggio and a breakout performance from Melanie Griffith. The film was torn apart on release, and De Palma once again faced accusations of misogyny. Over time, though, Body Double has built a cult following among his fans. And if you need a reminder that this is pure 80s, just look at the Los Angeles locations. Or the moment Frankie Goes to Hollywood shows up performing Relax.